Hi, and welcome to this introduction to open access. My name is Matt, and I'm a member of the Research Information Management team. Open access is the principle that a research output should be made available free of charge with no barriers to access. The copyright holder of an output can make it open access by applying an open access license to it. For example, a journal article or a dataset with an open access license can be accessed and reused by anyone, and there will be no or very few restrictions on how people can reuse the item. There are lots of benefits to making your work open access. It means more exposure and higher citation rates. Your open access outputs will be referred to by more people in their own publications. Your work is available to a wider audience without subscription, and this means that people who don't have access to sources such as university libraries can read your work. This might be researchers in developing countries, practitioners and policymakers, or members of the public. Funders are also keen on open access because it means more people can see the results of research, which represents better value for money for the taxpayer, who often funds much of this work. There are a few different ways to achieve open access. If you're making something available yourself, like a dataset or a report or some other grey literature, you can choose to license it yourself. But if you want something that's published to be open access, you need to follow the publisher's open access policy. Some journals are fully open access. Everything in the journal is automatically open access. Sometimes this is free, but more often the journal will apply a publication charge to every article to replace the income that they would have received from subscriptions. Some journals don't automatically publish articles open access, but they allow authors to deposit the final accepted manuscript in an online repository where it can be made open access after an embargo period of up to 2 years. These journals can sometimes make articles open access immediately, but apply a processing charge for this. We call it gold open access where it's paid for and green when it's free. The university's approach is to take the free route wherever it's possible to do so. So, what do you need to do to make sure that your articles and conference proceedings are open access? It's simple. Notify us as soon as you have a paper accepted. We'll advise you on the best route to open access for your article. Once you notify us, we'll make a record for your publication in Enlighten, our publications repository. And if the publisher lets us, we'll deposit a copy of the accepted manuscript that you provide. Everything in Enlighten that acknowledges a funder who requires a return in ResearchFish will have that item uploaded to the ResearchFish reporting tool. For staff, we also use Enlighten to populate the publication section of your performance and development review, the form used to discuss achievements and forward planning with your manager. The main sources of open access requirements are the university, funders, and the ref. There's some good guidance in the university's policy documents, and we recommend that you read them. The University of Glasgow's approach is that outputs should be made open access wherever it's possible to do so. Journal articles and conference proceedings can usually be made open access via the gold or the green route. Research data should be made open access wherever it's possible to do so. Good reasons for restricting access to your data might be that it contains personal information or is in copyright, or you need to embargo it, for example, for a patent application. Some funders have open access requirements, and you should consider these before submitting an article. If you've received funding for your research, you should always include an acknowledgement of your funding in the correct format. Always include the funder's reference number in the acknowledgement. If you don't acknowledge the funder, we may not be able to pay for gold open access, even if your paper is eligible otherwise. Before you submit an article, make sure that your journal's open access policy fits with what your funder requires. The UKRI policy applies to peer-reviewed research articles, non-commissioned reviews, systematic reviews, Cochrane reviews, and conference proceedings, acknowledging past or current grants or studentships. Outputs must be made open access with a maximum embargo of 6 months for STEM or 12 months for arts and social sciences. Mandatory page charges and supplements will be covered if we're paying for open access. We do not pay for optional charges like colour covers. The UKRI fund is finite. When it runs out, the embargo periods are extended. A CC BY license is required if we're paying for open access, and papers with a biomedical theme must be deposited in PubMed Central. There are several other funders who provide support for open access. Their policies vary, but generally they apply to peer-reviewed original research and review articles that acknowledge past or current grants or studentships. A CC BY license is usually required if the funder pays. Biomedical articles must generally be deposited in PubMed Central. The funders have differing procedures. Some provide us with funds and others ask us to apply directly to them. The funders in the top right of this slide, the Wellcome Trust, Chief Scientist's Office, Cancer Research UK, National Institute for Health Research, and Versus Arthritis all have funding for open access. Most of these have block grants, or we can assist you with accessing funds. For Versus Arthritis, authors should request open access funding on grant applications. For blood cancer and Parkinson's UK, you should contact research-open access at glasgow.ac.uk, as their new policy is not yet released, and we'll need to ask to contact them to find out if they'll fund new cases. The British Heart Foundation usually fund open access, but they don't have a budget for this at present. You can find details of the funders' procedures at the link in the bottom of this slide, and that will be kept up to date. Remember also that the university's policy is to use the green route wherever available, so payment isn't always necessary. You should check that the journal's policy matches your funder requirements before submitting your paper, and if you're not sure, email us at research-openaccess@glasgow.ac.uk. The Wellcome Trust has a new policy which applies to original research articles submitted from the 1st of January 2021. Articles must be freely available on PubMed Central, must have a CC BY license, and the author must include a statement of acknowledgement on submission to the publisher. This allows the author to make an accepted version open access, for example, via the University Repository or Europe PubMed Central, even if the publisher doesn't offer a compliant open access route or funds aren't available to pay the publisher. Wellcome will only fund submissions to fully open access journals or those transforming to open access. Authors are also required to share preprints. These are early drafts before peer review. And open access is required for books and book chapters. So contact us if you acknowledge Wellcome in your book or book chapter. The university has a number of arrangements with different publishers to lessen the cost of open access, and in some cases get open access for free for all items by University of Glasgow authors. These deals are updated quite frequently, so check our publisher arrangements page to see whether any apply to you, and contact research-open access at glasgow.ac.uk if you want to check if your paper can be covered by one of our deals. The other main driver of open access is the Research Excellence Framework, or REF. REF is the process of expert peer review of research outputs across UK universities. The exercise provides accountability for public spending on research, provides benchmarking for the quality of outputs, and informs the selective allocation of funding to universities. For each submission, 3 elements are assessed: the quality of outputs, for example, publications, performances, and exhibitions, their impact beyond academia, and the environment that supports the research. Any articles and conference proceedings submitted to REF must be open access. Outputs submitted to REF after the 1st of April 2016 must have been deposited in a repository as soon as possible after the point of acceptance and no later than 3 months after this date. You must deposit the author accepted manuscript. This is the final agreed text before the publisher adds their logos and markup. We must have evidence that it was in our repository within 3 months, and it may be a closed deposit if you don't have permission to share it. The author is responsible for ensuring that this policy is followed, and there are limited exceptions that might be applied in rare cases. Outputs must be made open access. REF accepts longer embargo periods than most funders, 12 months for science, technology and medicine, and 24 months for arts and social sciences. It's not necessary to pay an open access charge to comply with REF requirements. So, just to summarize what you need to do. When a paper is accepted, make sure that it's added to Enlighten. Notify research-open access at glasgow.ac.uk. Include the final accepted manuscript. Include your award numbers in your acknowledgements on papers. Don't agree to pay for open access unless you have confirmation that we can pay or you plan to pay from local funds. And always use your university email address and affiliation, because this enables us to access certain of the publisher deals. We'll check the funder requirements and the publisher's policy and advise you on how to proceed. And if appropriate, we'll arrange payment from the funds that we hold. If you're taking the green route, we'll deposit the manuscript and make it available after the embargo period expires, and we'll also check compliance and report to funders on your behalf. If you've got some research data that you need to make open access, you can take a look at our research data management pages, where you'll find guidance documents and information about training courses. Here are some other hints and tips that you might find useful. You should make sure that you can identify whether a journal is trustworthy. Most publishers are reputable, but you should beware of those that don't deliver appropriate standards of peer review and service. These are sometimes known as predatory journals. You should use a practical checklist such as Think, Check, Submit to help identify trusted journals. Trusted journals will usually be indexed in an appropriate database. You should also make sure that authors are appropriately credited for the work they've contributed to an output. The university recommends the credit taxonomy of authorship. You can find more information about this on our open access pages. Thank you for watching, and if you've got any questions, you can contact us at research-openaccess@glasgow.ac.uk or research-datamanagement@glasgow.ac.uk.